Welcome to this month's episode of Best Fails, the place where failure isn't feared, it's explored. So, if you're new here, Best Fails is a brave space where we unpack the stories we often hide. We look at what went wrong, what it revealed, and how it shaped us. Our guest today is Christina Harwell, who entitled this episode Grappling with Purpose. Together, we reflected on identity and purpose and talked about what happens in our careers and relationships when we start to remove our masks. Christina invites us into an honest, reflective conversation about authenticity and how the mask that we cling to can shape the failures that we experience. This episode is an invitation to ask a courageous question: who am I without the mask? So let's get into it. So, welcome, Christina, to
Thank you.
Best Bills. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Of course, pleasure to
And
be here. Thank you.
thank you as well. I would imagine that what last year, March, a chance meeting at a conference would end up with
Yay,
us having
Intratech
such.
Insights.
Yes.
One of like six women there, baby. Yes.
We were diversity queens.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it started all with your beautiful eclectic glasses. So
Yes,
that's what
it
started
did.
it. So,
And then we got into nails. Then we started talking about
yes.
nails and so forth.
Yeah. Sorry, gentlemen, if you're watching, this is what we do. This is how women connect and do business. Thanks. Take
Exactly,
notes.
exactly. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read your bio so people have a chance to understand your
Okay.
professional persona, and then we'll get into some more
Fabulous.
personal bits. Yes.
Great.
So Christina Harwell is a dot connector and innovator, a woman who challenges the norms in the pursuit of creating dynamic, co-collaborative partnerships and projects, both personally and professionally. With over 19 years of experiences within sales, business development, PR, marketing, brand development, and even politics, Christina uses her extensive expertise to weave together solutions, practices, and people from all walks of life to empower, inspire, and craft movements of profound and potent change.
Yes.
Welcome, Christina. I am
Good.
intrigued by the politics.
Oh,
Please tell me a
yes.
little bit about
Yes.
that.
So I actually, my degree is in politics.
Right.
Um, and one of the things my dad was really a scientist. He still works in the pharmaceutical business.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're going to follow my footsteps." And I tried 1 year of that at university, absolutely hated it. And then I had an introduction to politics course, and I just said, this is what I'm doing." We had a pretty big fight about it. But I
Wow.
but I won in the end, and part of that degree was working for the Labour Party when
Oh,
Tony Blair was
nice.
in office. So
Wow.
yeah, so got to work in Portcullis, got to really see the ins and outs. Very interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
And further discussions about that can be had privately because
Very.
quite interesting. But a lot of growth. I mean, I was only 2021, and here I was sitting with Lords, House of Lords,
Wow.
politicians,
What an
you know,
experience.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very, very interesting time. So,
So you've kind of mentioned your father already, so we're gonna delve
mm,
into the
yep,
personal a little bit. So tell us a
sure.
little bit about you, like how you grew up, a little bit about your family, all of that type of stuff.
Great. So I'm what I label myself as a triple nationality person or professional.
Nice. Yes.
So born and raised in Princeton, New Jersey. And my father's English and
Yeah.
my mother's Swedish.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, one of the things that I've really realized and started leaning into is this fact that I'm a bridge between two worlds.
Yeah.
That's also personally, but also professionally, because the US really looks at things differently. It has a very different can do spirit.
Yeah.
And the English and European way is slightly more reserved. And let me tell you, grappling with that, and that's why I
Yeah.
entitled, what I really want to talk about, grappling with purpose. When you're
Yeah.
getting different messaging from the old way and you
Yeah.
want to create a new way and you're in a society that embraces a totally different way, which voice do you follow? So,
Yes.
and then you add on the different layers of that. You add on obviously social economic
Yeah.
set of layers. You add on gender layers. You add
Yeah.
on the people that you surround yourself and the messaging that you're receiving from all over the place. So there are many different layers. And obviously you know this because as a black woman yourself,
Yeah.
there's 3 or 4 different layers on top of that that
For
other
sure.
genders, white men in particular, may not really understand. So I think
Exactly.
it's all of those sort of ingredients really has left a mark on me, because I look at blending sort of the old way, if you want to call it that, or sort of more
Hmm.
traditional aspects with a new way. And
Yeah.
I was brought up, by my parents and my mother in particular, to be able to have conversations with anyone. I was
Hmm.
surrounded by adults at a very early age, surrounded by thinkers, surrounded by people in the pharmaceutical business, politicians, things like that,
Yeah.
because my mother really wanted to ensure that I knew how to communicate with the rest of the world
Yes.
and not gaga goo goo. No. So, we were always had discussions around the table. We were always very engaged in worldviews and politics. And it's
Yeah.
something that I think I'm able to talk to anybody and
Hmm.
bring something new to that conversation or an idea, because I literally have so many different interests, from the
Yeah.
creative all the way to the political to the logical and back again, that
Yeah.
that's what really makes, I think, a successful product, a
Yeah.
successful experience. I would say even a successful partnership.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back again to being that dot connector, having
Absolutely.
all of these experiences and being able to connect them in a way that makes sense for whatever it is that you're trying
Absolutely.
to do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I can imagine having a background like that where your mom is encouraging you to have
Mm.
conversations with everybody was just maybe such a confidence boost for you.
Thank you very much for that comment. I think that's very true.
Yeah.
Having my, I also have a younger sister, so we were always engaging with different personalities, especially, we traveled twice a year to Europe. And believe me,
Yeah.
not a lot of people do that. So I realized how thankful and blessed I am, because
Yeah.
obviously that takes money. So thanks, Dad. There was always that, going back to Sweden for the summer, visiting family in
Yeah.
England for Easter, and
Yeah.
my dad was very much into, I would say, creative pursuits, i.e. opera. He loved the opera, so we went to the Met
Right.
quite a lot. Now, I do understand people listening, they may not have that experience, and let me tell you, I'm very thankful for that.
Yes.
But I think everybody will have different experiences that added to their own tapestry of life. So that those are mine.
Exactly. So
Mm,
no, I'm even more curious as to because you've had such an eclectic experience. You've got
mm,
a
mm,
father who is British, a mother who is Swedish. You've grown and you were born and raised in the US.
mm,
You have experience with science, with arts, all of these things.
mm.
What was your first experience of failure like? Like
Oh
what was the
goodness.
attitudes to failure within your family and community?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm realizing a lot now is, the idea of failure, at least in my book, and I think in my household, failure wasn't really a positive word. It was
Right.
wasn't really. It was a bit of a dirty word.
Yeah.
But I think that upon reflection now, that comes from the older way of looking at things. There
Hmm.
wasn't that, hey, what's this growth mindset here? Can we use,
Yeah.
I'm now training myself to look at failure as data. It's data
Right.
collected.
Yes.
So
Yes, it
failure equals
is.
data. You
Yes,
don't
it
learn the
is.
data when everyone's, excuse my language, kissing your ass and going, oh, you're amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. But the only lesson you're learning is boosting your ego, which helps no
Yeah.
one. So,
Hmm.
the thing is, the first failure, I'm just trying to think. Um, I know that for me, certain subjects in school, I wasn't interested in. Math
Yeah.
was a big sort of wonder to me. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. However, reading and writing, I was down. I was happy. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think for me, it was very difficult for me to really understand math sometimes, and that became sort of a bit of a thing that I would get anxious about.
Yeah.
I think one of the first, would I say failures, but I definitely think going back to when I was supposed to apply for university,
Hmm.
the American system is very different. That there is an enormous amount of pressure, and I think the UK has become a bit like that now,
Hmm.
where you have to decide at the age of 16 and 17. Okay, what's your trajectory? Where are we going? What
Yes.
university are you going to? And
Yeah.
they didn't have what they have in the UK, like a gap year. They don't have that in the States, or maybe they
Yeah.
do now, where people are more sort of in tune with that rhythm. But we're talking. 2000, 2001,
Hmm.
it was basically you had to go to university. And then after
Yes.
university, you have to get that job. And after that job,
Yes.
you have to get married and pop out kids. And I was just like, I don't know what to do here. And I
Yeah.
felt an incredible amount of shame and failure because I didn't really
Hmm.
know what what my life's purpose was supposed to be.
Wow.
I didn't know where I fit in. I sort of always felt that I was sort of a square peg in a round hole. And
Hmm.
no matter how many times I tried, it wouldn't fit in. And I felt great shame and anxiety around that.
Wow.
Whereas now I look at that and go, that just created this. But at the
Yes.
time, there wasn't that those messaging in that conversation. It was, you don't know, then you're a failure.
Right.
And that was very
Wow.
much aligned with the American dream. And I use those quotations quite a lot
Yeah.
because the American dream comes with stipulations that you have to be perfect and you have to know what's and where you fit in and how you make money. That's the American dream,
Yes.
right? That no one talks about. So if
Yeah.
you want to take the time to find yourself, whatever, that's time away from making us money.
Yeah.
So, that was, I would say, maybe not my first great feeling of failure, but it was one of my greatest feelings, is not really understanding or knowing. And then, through my first year, realizing that biology just ain't the one.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Chemistry, even worse. Nope. 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 I mean, it's funny now because I'm really into health and that stuff I find interesting.
Yeah.
But following in that footsteps, and then what really lit me up was this intro to political science course.
Yeah.
Was law, was reason, was ethics. How do you make a
Yeah.
difference from that place of I guess creative
Yeah.
logistical power? That's
Yeah.
what really interested me, and how you can make impact there. So I remember the conversation we got into a very, very bad argument, very bad.
This
And
is you and
then
your father?
yes, yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
And I think I now understand because at the time he was just worried that, okay, how are you going to succeed?
Yes.
And again,
Yeah.
the old school way is very much succeed marker driven.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now I think I think there still is that undercurrent, but there's more of a conversation around the other attributes that you can bring to the table. Right.
Exactly.
So I think that was really one of my biggest lessons. I really stuck to my guns. And even if you're looking at the data itself, the grades difference between biology and that, I mean, political science straight A's,
Phenomenal. Oh,
A plus
wow.
plus.
Yes.
We're
Yeah. Yeah.
talking when I
Yeah.
ended my GPA out of 4, I think it was closer to 3.65 or 3 point,
Wow. Yes.
so that reflected it in
Showed
itself.
exactly reflected the interest. Yeah.
I think the biggest lesson from that is, stick to your guns.
Yeah.
The data will come out in the end, and then if you need
Yeah.
to pivot, you need to do so. And I think now is the time to actually really delve into what works and what doesn't work. And
Yeah.
and I think the other thing that I've noticed is that if you remember, the old school way was like, you need to have a path and stick with it. If you even think about sniffing out another path, you're a failure. Like you're a flip flopper.
Yeah.
You're a all these
Yes,
stuff.
that
And you're
whole
just like,
flip
what?
flopping.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, and I
Yeah.
got that
Yeah.
a lot when I first moved to this country.
Yeah.
Oh, the American system, we don't understand that. Okay, good for you. With gold star from Jesus. But, it sort of, and then on top of that, when I wanted to change, then it became, oh, but you have gaps in your CV. You're a flip flopper. Now,
Y-
this toolkit is my greatest asset
Yeah.
because I have
Yes.
so many experiences. I have so many ways to go, okay, we want to do this project. What about this? And then I know all these people here and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna get into playing the game.
great.
So I'm going to just choose some cards for us to discuss,
Fantastic. Bring it on.
and we'll both answer the same questions. In my family, so this is in my family, blank calls the shots. In my family.
Oh dear. Okay.
So in my family, so if I think about me
Mm,
and my husband Wendell, it really depends. It
yeah.
depends. If it is anything to do with technology, security,
Mm,
even down to health, things that require research, Wendell calls the shots. But
yeah.
when it comes to maybe the more social types of things,
Mm,
then I would be the shot caller.
yeah. Goodness.
So
Okay. I laugh because I'm just going to be honest. So sorry,
yeah.
mom and dad, but hey. Um, I would say my mother is the real sort of powerhouse. Even
Yes.
though my dad, I'm sorry, dad, but hey, my dad is a powerhouse in some aspects, but my mum is
Yes.
really the driving force of steering the ship. So what I mean by
Yes.
that is, getting things organized. They
Mm-hmm.
just switched doctors recently, so she was the big sort of driving
Right.
force between that, and
Behind that,
obviously they are of
yes.
an age where that's important.
Yeah.
She handles all the finances, obviously goes through it with my dad.
Yeah.
What I will respect, actually, upon reflection, is when I was younger, kids, we always like to try and sort of which one's the good parent, which one's the bad parent. And I will give her this that, she always collaborated with my dad to make sure there was
Yeah.
no decision funny business, let's put it that way.
Yes.
So there was always a united front because my dad was away a lot on traveling
Right.
for business. So he
Yeah.
was in Europe and Japan a lot. So, my mom really was the mom and the dad. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would say, from the rules point of view, I would say my dad was the one who set up the frameworks and systems.
Yeah.
But I think from everything else, my mum was really the driving force.
This is a good time to kind of segue into
Sure.
your failure story because I know you told me about the yoga retreat. It sounded fantastic.
This retreat really opened up something in me that I realized, wow, okay, I've been holding on to for a very long time. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, especially women, will relate to this
Yeah.
is, you know, I, I think we as women wear so many masks that do not serve us.
Yes.
The mask of perfectionism, the
Mm-hmm.
mask of doing, the
Mm-hmm.
mask of I need to be this person to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I don't want to wear these masks anymore because they do not serve me. So I metaphorically ripped them off during
Yeah.
this retreat. Now, understand that when you wear masks, you have to see what's underneath. I don't know if you can classify it as a best fails, but I think learning that A, we wear masks, learning why we do that, learning in what case we use them, and a lot of times we use masks, especially in business,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't be emotional, or you have to be extra assertive to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Mm-hmm.
ensure you document everything just in case your coworker tries to take your idea.
Mm-hmm.
All failures, I think, are learning data points, but also what I've been really looking at is which version of me showed up that day. And is
Mm-hmm.
that person the reason why this didn't work out because it wasn't the authentic self?
Interesting.
So,
And
and I think you will always have a mixed bag, but I think a
yeah.
lot of the decisions, and I'll discuss another one in a second, a lot of
Yeah.
them were impulsive in my case because I wanted to feel, I needed to find something. And that's why I really wanted this discussion to be about grappling with purpose, because so many
Yeah.
people are grappling with the idea of purpose,
Yeah.
especially in a society that's driven towards comparison and
Yeah.
driven towards money and what makes a man, what makes a woman, all of this stuff. It's just noise. But what
Yeah.
we're really not having a discussion on is how can I be the best person today? What can I do to add value to my local community and society? How can I uplift others when they need me? I'm not seeing a lot of those discussions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just seeing this other discussion of self, which is very much geared towards financial and other gratification.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah, yeah, you first, Alison. Yeah,
no, you said quite a lot. There were
yeah,
some words that really stood out to me because you talk about ripping the mask off, which
yeah.
sounds because ripping something off sounds a little bit violent, and it makes me
Mm,
wonder about what that experience was like. But then you also talked about how you've gone into certain situations and made certain decisions, and the
mm,
mask that you had on at the point in time did not serve you. I know that
mm,
you were working with your authentic self. What might that be bringing up for you? So we
mm.
can start with the ripping off first, because
Yeah,
the
sure.
word is such an
Rip those
interesting
masks off.
word.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have to thank. I know there's a section where we can thank people, but I will thank one of the
Yeah,
ladies that I met on the retreat, Danny,
yeah,
because we had a conversation about this idea of masks and how I've just been wearing a mask and sort of trying to pass as normal, and
Right.
things
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we all have these moments where we present a self that has elements of us, but perhaps isn't our true authentic self. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying we have to show up as our crazy, awesome selves at work, because to be honest, there's a professional self and a personal self.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, your authentic self should be a good chunk in there, not just
Mm-hmm.
completely masked or
Mm-hmm.
buried,
Mm-hmm.
or sort of you're pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
And I can see a very clear trajectory of the past roles that I've had. Some of it worked, but perhaps some of it didn't work because of my mindset at the time and the person I was trying to become, or I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. So the previous job I had before this one, I won't name the company because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's fine.
But
Yeah.
I literally was searching for a job because of obviously COVID. I lost my job.
Yeah.
And then I used that time to go, really, I'm really not happy with certain aspects of myself. And it's time for me to really go inward and sort of what's working, what's not working. So I was doing a lot of, I had a coach, I was doing, a lot of things at that time. I think really building the foundation of the person you see in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, trying to I was furloughed and then obviously fired, lost my job completely. And then I had to do the whole asking the government, hey, can I get some money, please?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
obviously having to show that you'd replied to all these jobs. And I was applying to
Yeah.
100 jobs a day at one
Wow.
point.
Yeah.
And then, my, I guess, government aid worker said, yeah, I don't need to see all that. Just give me like 20 and we're good,
Yeah.
right? I trust you, you're good.
Uh-huh.
But after a long time, I finally secured this role, and it was a sales role. It was in a sector I didn't really know very much about, but I thought, how hard can it be? And it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a
Right.
good fit because I do more what I like to call relationship sales, meaning building relationships. And if I'm passionate about something, it sells itself.
Yeah.
I think they really wanted, and I completely understand this now upon reflection, they wanted someone who, excuse this language, but a little bit more pump and dump, a little
Okay.
bit more sort of like
Yeah.
that. And that's not the type of salesperson I am. Okay. If that's
Yeah.
what you want, that's fine. So
Yeah.
then we pivoted and retried training and that I enjoyed that for a while. But upon reflection, you know, this was a role that I learned a lot from.
Right.
I learned that, wow, I'm actually really good at logistical and organizational skills.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
really, really good at planning things out.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, I mean, this is, I had to drive. I was like a road salesperson. So I would actually
Yeah.
plan my day and my trajectory in a very certain way so I could hit
Yeah.
more targets and sort of, I did things in a very particular way. And
Yeah.
then I actually went back and said, the way that we do things, I think we can change this, like from a logistical.
Yes.
And why don't we streamline this? And what about this? And, so
Yeah.
that was something I learned. I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to speak up for myself because before I wasn't very good at that. I learned how to streamline processes, or I learned how to put it in a way that I could communicate that so that
Mm-hmm.
it could be actioned. I
Yeah.
learned how to best plan operationally, which
Mm-hmm.
before that I just thought, oh, that's all boring and I'm not good at that. And I literally took that and then I applied it to this current role where I'm in a totally different sector in insurance, but the reason they hired me was because I had this retail experience. I
Yeah.
understood how to communicate to retail partners because I worked in
Yeah.
that space. I
Yeah.
know what it's like to hit those targets. I know the
Yeah.
mindset. And, we've launched in Ireland, which I spearheaded that, and I'm very proud of that with the work we did with our former underwriter.
Yeah.
And now we've just redone our whole operational documents, and I was the main person who crafted them from scratch with our new
Right.
carrier partner.
Because yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's from someone who had no experience really of that from, even 3, 4 years ago to someone who now is plugged in, is, really creating that and creating
Mm-hmm.
documents that are clear,
Yeah.
not only for us, but for the customer, because I said it's unacceptable for the customer to be in the dark. We must create something of value.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I had not gone through that previous role and experienced, I think would I call them setbacks? I would call them learning curves.
Yeah.
I would call alignments. I
Yeah.
would call really tough feedback on my own behavior.
Yeah.
and really took that and going, okay, what can we learn from that and
Yeah.
build from that?
Yeah.
I would say it's those points there. So
Right.
I think that's really important. To Negative feedback really sucks. I don't think anybody's really good at accepting it. If they tell
Receiving
you,
it, yeah.
yeah, if they tell you they're full of crap, there's always a moment where you need to go away and kind of assess, right? There will
Yeah.
always be that, right? But I think within that, there's always one or two gems that you can pull out of that.
Yeah.
And it might take a bit of time. I mean, for me, it took a while to kind of assess what they were assessing, and saying. But I think using that and now really creating a level of a standard
Yeah.
where I really communicate to the highest level. I
Yeah.
really ensure there's no misunderstandings because we don't
Yeah.
have time for that. I really go back and check, is this what we are aligning on and agree on? Is
Yeah.
this what you want the project to be like? Because I have this idea. What about your idea?
Yeah.
So we're creating stronger products and partnerships.
Yeah.
But it took that experience to unleash this side of me.
So, because I'm thinking about the idea that you've talked about grappling with purpose, which is
Yeah.
such a
Mm.
powerful idea. The whole idea of
Yeah.
purpose. Tell me a little bit about the difference between, and I guess maybe from the perspective of purpose, the difference between how you were viewing the experiences you had then
Mm.
to know, looking at it through through hindsight, through the lens of
Absolutely.
hindsight.
That's a great question. I wanted to be very specific because I know society values the quick wins and 2 weeks to Nirvana. No. So
Mm.
it's what you see in front of you has been, at least, I want to say, since COVID was when I really started. So 2000, I always get the years, 2020. It's
2020,
like the
yeah,
COVID
yeah.
years. I'm like, it's like yesterday. So 2020 was really
Yeah,
when I started, I would say, digging the foundation.
right.
And then there were some twists and turns, etc. But if we're really being very honest, I think this current trajectory would be the last, I would say, 2 years.
Right.
And so that's a culmination of the work I've done personally. So I've had coaches, and I've obviously been in therapy. I'm not ashamed to say that. I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone should be honest about that, and it's not doom and gloom, but it really helps to ensure that from both sides of the coin that you are fixing and building on a place of strength.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
highly recommend that to anybody.
yeah,
But then I think also really aligning with what want to do and discovering
yeah,
what really
yeah.
lights me up, surrounding myself with fantastic people. And I think I've been going on quite a lot of these, I would say, retreats personally. And
Mm-hmm.
also I love networking as well, because you are aligning with people that will have bring different ideas, etc. And
Yeah,
that's what I've really been building on, is the grappling with purpose. I think everybody is really looking for that
yeah,
surefire, what is my purpose? But I think you don't get there until you actually, number one, look inward. Number two, identify what needs to be built upon. I think, and also number three is really start paying attention to the things that light you up,
yeah.
the things that you go, that's interesting. So now I have a checklist that if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. Because there have been so many times where I'm like, well, and then it's been a complete disaster.
Yes.
If it's not a yes, then it's a no.
Yeah.
And I mean, my new little saying, I literally just came up with this morning. If it doesn't align, you must decline.
Oh, I
So
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
If it doesn't align, you must
It's
decline.
decline.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
not like yes, or I will make this, if you're not going to make the time for it, if you're not
Hmm.
going to move heaven and earth for it, then it's a no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there have
Yeah.
been so many times where I've just sort of said yes to things and jumped into roles because of desperation, or I need to make money, or if I don't have make money, I'm what am I going to do? And
Hmm.
it's, I think, when you're making better decisions from a place of calm strength and calm wisdom, then you make better decisions. Then those
Yeah.
decisions will lead to even better decisions, or perhaps even a better network of people that you can align with, or
Yeah.
better experiences.
Yeah. The search in 2020, did you know that it was a search in a questionable purpose, or only know as you're sitting back and
Mm.
reflecting, have you figured out that, oh, this really is a question of purpose?
I would say it was a question of who the hell am I and what am I going to do?
Right. Got
I
it.
think that
Got
was
it.
pretty much. I mean, I think a lot of people were feeling that with the
Yeah.
uncertainty.
Yeah.
But I just said, okay, if this is what I'm going to use this time wisely.
Yeah.
And I believe that you can see a clear distinction between the people that use that time wisely and the people who
Mm-hmm.
sat on their butt all day drinking. You can see it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
clear trajectory, and you have this almost chasm of people that have become more empowered, I think more agile, and the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are just, why can't things go back to the way they are,
Or
and
yeah.
all that mindset.
Yeah, 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 yeah. One of the things that research talks about, especially when it comes to the relationship between failure and purpose, is kind of twofold. They kind of have a circular relationship where
Mm,
purpose provides resilience against failure, because
yes.
you know there's an end result that you're working towards, so it
Mm,
provides a bit of resilience. But also failure provides the platform for which you can define your purpose,
mm,
or
yes.
make sense. Like you're talking about, like,
Mm,
who am I in terms of your purpose and so forth. So as we, because now you're in the position where you figured out your purpose.
yeah.
You know that you're that, and I'm gonna assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it has to do with how you've introduced yourself as well, that you're that dot connector. You connect the dots
Mm,
for people, you build those relationships and help to make things make sense. How are you finding this new sense of purpose is impacting the way that you are handling new challenges or failures that occur,
mm,
or even, do you even see them as failures in the same way that you would have
yeah.
before?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very interesting because that bio, full transparency, y'all. That bio I wrote just before we jumped onto air.
That's
Just make. But I wanted to say this because
yeah,
I really struggled for a very long time
yeah,
about what is your purpose.
yeah.
And that's a question I've been asking myself, since I was 8 or 9 years old. What is my purpose? Why am I, there's a certain level of emotional intelligence that dedicates an answer to that question, right? And I just, for the longest time, I didn't know what that was.
Hmm.
And through a lot of work, and I have to pick up my coaches at the moment,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Dave,
yeah.
who's one of my coaches. But I think it's very important to explain that it took a while to even write
Yeah,
and even believe in that bio statement,
yeah, yeah,
because I know that one of the things that lights me up is connecting with people.
yeah.
If you look at my background, that's the red thread that connects everything, is how do I
Hmm.
connect people, situations, experiences to better themselves,
Yeah,
to create something of impact, to create
yeah,
something of value, or
yeah.
create something that's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at different ways to actually create something that's new,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just improve on something that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I didn't really understand how powerful that was.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredibly powerful to meet people on the plane. And I'll give you an example. So I met someone who actually, I'm not going to say who he is, but he actually is one of the head political representatives in Nigeria. So we had a great time
Right.
on the plane, and
Yes.
chatting for hours and things like that. But
Yeah.
if I didn't have that curiosity or interest,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't have happened. I would have sat there like, "Mm, yeah, whatever," like I see a lot of
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah.
But we really connected on, about politics and about everything else. But
Yes.
that's just one of many sort of situations, because I'm a curious person.
Yeah.
And I think that holds great value,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to have a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
Now, I've realized that that is a very strong attribute, but you have to use it properly. You have to use it
Mm-hmm.
wisely. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm not a pump and dump salesperson.
Yeah.
It doesn't align with me. I think that type of sales strategy is outdated and very,
Yeah.
what's the word I want to use to be polite? It's just, you don't create long-standing sales relationships in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
my opinion. I
Yeah.
think they're very much transactional, and I hate
Yeah.
transactional sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking at the way I look at things now, that statement I wrote this morning, but it's a culmination of all, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, the last 5 years of work,
Yeah.
and particularly the last year's worth of
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
actually realized these are very strong attributes. The fact that I have the ability to connect with people and I have so many wealth of experiences where in the past it was, oh, you're a flip flopper. That is my greatest asset. I have all of these
Mm-hmm.
tools in my arsenal kit where you don't have that. Sucks to you.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
that's what I think purpose is really clearing out the rubbish, clearing out the noise, and really listening to what you want to do and screw the rest.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
sounds to me like you're also saying that it has
Mm.
refined the way the experiences that you have, how you perceive them,
Mm.
regardless of whether or not they have the outcome that you want or not. But it
Yeah.
is refined, it has refined the way that you are viewing those experiences.
Yes.
Well, you said something and you talked about having the meeting with the or not having the meeting because it wasn't a meeting, you just met.
Well, it was a very
It
great
just
business
happened to
meeting.
me.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a bit of an acquaintance that you would have gathered. But I'm quite curious now that the mask is off and you are working
Mm.
on being more authentic. How is this impacting relationships that you have in your life where you might be showing up differently to how you would have been
Hmm.
showing up before?
Yeah, good question. I think the one thing a lot of people kind of touch on, but they don't want to touch on, is the fact that when you change, the relationships around you change.
Yes.
So a lot of the people I used to have in my life are no longer in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been an amalgamation of all sorts of things that I won't go into because it's private.
Yeah.
But there will be, I don't want to say collateral damage because that's not the right word I'm looking for, but there will be changes, and those changes mean you either get with the program or we no
Yeah.
longer align.
Yeah. It
And
takes you on a
that
different
can be,
path.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be painful.
Mm-hmm.
But it also requires the fact that you must look at yourself and see what you also brought to the table.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to sort of blame everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
because you also, there takes two to tango. You also brought certain attributes to either the business partnership or the relationship or even the
Mm-hmm.
friendship.
Yeah.
So again, if it aligns, then fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a change and you're not happy about it, then there's something called a little bit of conversation.
Yeah.
But then if it's very clear that there is no more alignment, then unfortunately or fortunately, you have to go your separate ways, or
Yeah.
you can disagree to disagree. I think it's growth shouldn't make you feel like you're betraying people.
Yeah. I love
It
that.
Yeah, and it's I've felt that I couldn't be myself sometimes, and now I look at it going, if you don't like me with me being my authentic self, then you just liked the mask version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had
Which
to
isn't
spend,
you?
no,
Yeah.
exactly. And I've had to spend a lot of time, I would say, and I think a lot of women feel this way too, a lot of time pretending to be something I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Mm-hmm.
wonder why so many women nowadays are
Mm-hmm.
just going, I am done.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How many times do I need to twist myself into a pretzel to make other people feel good when you're completely burned out and raw?
Yeah.
That's who are you benefit? How does that benefit? It doesn't benefit you. And it
Yeah.
doesn't benefit your greater family or your friends. It doesn't benefit the work and the value you bring. You're just projecting a lie.
Yeah. How have you navigated that though? Because there are
Mm.
some people who are, when they have gone through a similar process to you and
Mm.
recognize, okay, I am going in a different direction to maybe
Yeah.
people in my life, they're ready to burn down and destroy.
Yeah.
Sometimes the
Yeah.
language songs like I
Yeah.
am ready to burn down and destroy, but
Yeah.
you said something, you talked about the fact that it does not need to be that way. You can have a little bit of conversation and
Yeah.
there is still a maybe a kindness to the way that you talked about
Yeah.
it. So how have you managed those relationships where you are obviously going
Mm.
separately?
That's a great question. I think the temptation to burn it all down is very real. I just like to clarify that.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't say that is lying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much like, oh, I'm just going to burn it down and start anew. And
Yeah.
it's like, you
Yeah.
hear some Pretty Woman music in the background as you're driving away, like, yeah, I told that person. No. So, it isn't always practical to do that way.
Yes.
And I think, especially not within a workspace, unless
No.
unless you're giving your notice and goodbye.
Exactly.
But again, I always believe that, it really depends on the situation. Obviously, in
Hmm.
work, you show up, you stay consistent, and
Yeah.
you show up, and then you make the changes as needed, but you always do your best and you show up.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. That's all people care about.
Yeah.
Is, do you get your stuff done? Are you pleasant to work with? And you're not an asshole. Do you bring your A game? Do you bring money to the company? Great, right, fine,
Yes.
we're good. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
job done, tick.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about interpersonal relationships, like within the family or friends or even partner spaces, that needs to be an ad hoc discussion, because some
Yeah.
discussion points will work with some people, some won't. But I
Yeah.
always believe that you bring your honest self. I think, really explain very clearly, this is what I'm doing, this is what I won't be doing anymore,
Hmm.
and then let's work together. Especially good
Yeah.
for, relationships, if we're talking about
Yeah.
marriages, etc., because people do change.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that not a lot of conversations around, what happens if you change. It's always
Yeah.
about, sacrifice. Not, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, you should be in relationships, or you should be aligning with people that actually value your thirst for change, or your
Yeah.
thirst for growth, I should say, is
Yeah.
probably the best way.
Yeah.
And if you're not, and if you're with people who judge, remember that they're coming from a place of fear. They're coming from probably a place of, they didn't think of it first and they are scared to
Hmm.
change.
Hmm.
And most likely they're scared of losing an aspect
Hmm.
of the relationship, positively or negatively. So always think
Yeah.
about that. But again, I believe in communication. If you've communicated and said, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going, and that person doesn't show interest in aligning with you, then you have your answer.
Yeah. 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 I really appreciate that because
Mm.
sometimes burning down might be necessary depending on the
It feels
situation.
good, but
It might feel good, but
yeah.
it does not always work for you. It doesn't always work for you.
Mm.
But and this question has popped into my mind because we've been talking about unmasking. I
Yeah.
came across this psychological concept recently called covering. So basically, what
Mm.
covering is that um people are aware of your authentic self, so they
Yeah.
know who you are, how you are, etc. But sometimes you cover that, or you might hide that a little bit, depending on the situation that you're in.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
researcher was saying that that this is everybody basically does this in
Yeah.
some form or fashion. But he was saying, of course, with everything, there are two sides to it. So the negative side is when, of course, it feels like it is not serving you. You feel like you're
Mm.
losing something in the process of it, in the process of it.
Yeah.
But there is a positive to it, and the positive might be, you might be in a situation where showing up authentically as you are
Mm.
might be disadvantageous to the person who
Yeah.
you might be around, or you might be interacting with. For example, if there's a power dynamic that is at play, you might need to
Mm.
maybe shift a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, for you, in the relationships that you have, in the situations that you found yourself, if you've found yourself in a situation where you felt like you've had to cover, where from the perspective of, that in this particular situation,
Mm.
I might just cover myself a little bit because it
Yeah.
might not be as advantageous for those around me. And how has that
Mm.
been for you navigating
Mm.
that?
Yes, I've experienced that my whole
Yeah.
life, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think two things to think about and discuss. I think they're very much situational.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
there is always, and this is something I've learned, there's always a yin and a yang, and a push and a pull.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there may be times that you must take a back seat.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in a marriage, it could be with a child, it could
Mm-hmm.
be with parents,
Mm-hmm.
parents, it
Mm-hmm.
could be in
Mm-hmm.
a workspace.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that you have to live there.
Yes.
So I think the more logical side of me really agrees, and I feel this as well, that there will always be the ebb and the flow.
Yeah.
But then there will be times where, if you're in a relationship, you take the center stage and then the partner's taking a back seat because the partner aligns with what's important with you. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean the partner has to sit in the baby seat for the entire
Yeah.
thing of the marriage. So,
Time. Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
so I think that is something that I've seen played out a
Mm-hmm.
few times successfully.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times people then go, "Oh, she's taking a back seat. Great. Okay, then you get to live there."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that I think women are becoming better at advocating for self, so that doesn't
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
And then we're not just going to accept the, "Oh, could you take the notes, Brenda?" No, there's something called download an AI app, and then send us all
Exactly.
the notes. Thanks, guys.
Exactly.
Or, hey, could you sort out lunch? No,
Yeah.
Barry can sort
Yeah.
out lunch. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think there are these gentle, or not so gentle, because I'm a very blunt person. I'm not doing that. And this is why I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. It's
Yeah.
a waste of my time. And
Yeah.
I said, and if you want me to do X, Y, and Z, this is taking away from me making sales.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I
Plain and
think,
simple.
yeah, exactly. I'm a no
Choose
BS
which
type of
one.
girl, Alison, no BS. But I think, if you're really looking at life is not always just cut and dry. And that's something I also had to learn. I saw the world very black and white. But now I understand that there are shades of gray. And
Yeah.
within that gray, the way you navigate that is by bringing your best authentic self and doing your
Hmm.
best, but also being honest, or as honest as you can be. I understand certain
Hmm.
situations, perhaps you can't be as honest as you can be. I mean, this is
Hmm.
reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and not aligning with things that don't serve you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there will
Yeah.
be situations, and we've seen it in business, where people have to act in a way that's perhaps not becoming.
Yeah.
But then you find out later they didn't have a choice or whatever. I understand the world is grey. The world is
Yeah.
messy. We
Yeah.
do what we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love that because I think sometimes when you see posts and you see people talking about being authentic, sometimes it is almost to the point of I don't care what anybody else, I don't care about the impact,
mm, yeah,
and and yes, you want to be authentic. It's important that we be authentic, but that we also read the room a little bit as well because
yeah,
like you said, there's always an ebb and flow. There's always
mm,
shades of gray, but making sure that you
absolutely.
don't stay in a place where of course you begin to lose yourself.
Absolutely. And I
S-
and I think, being authentic doesn't mean you get to be an asshole.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
perhaps, and I'm seeing so much of that I'm authentic, so I get to be this.
Exactly.
Okay. Number one,
Yes.
read the room. Number two, I didn't ask you. And number three, there's something called a little bit of interpersonal
Come
collaboration, and
on.
you've just made us all think you're a jerk. So congratulations. Go on with your authentic self. That there has to be authenticity is a beautiful thing, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't bring a bit of ethical class to it. And what
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
by that is really you stand in your truth, you stand in your power, but you don't do that to the detriment of other people.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. So as you were, managing this whole discovery of purpose, I would say
Mm,
grappling with purpose, you
yeah.
talked about coaching, you talked about going to therapy, and you talked about doing a
Mhm.
lot of self-work.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would have done that was really helpful in helping you to find the purpose that you've got now?
Yeah, I think I really, really believe, and I've sort of been doing some little data research on myself and how I feel, but really getting my nutrition game on point.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's difficult for me because I live alone, so sometimes you're like, oh God, I have to cook or whatever. But really eating well,
Yes. Yeah.
moving well, hydration is very key. And of course, if you want to have a nice little tipple or two, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do what suits you and
Mm-hmm.
do what suits yourself in your own, I would say, life's journey, because there's so much information about what we should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Do what's right for you. If that
Yeah.
means you want to get up and you want to run Ironman, sweetheart, do you. I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines because that's not my jam. I'll be in the
Yeah.
rowboat going, swim, swim, swim. But no, I won't be doing that, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think if we're really talking about my tips for or even just sort of purpose, I think it's really looking after yourself, It's
Mm-hmm.
really cultivating and protecting who has access to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that who has access to you, what time do
Mm-hmm.
they have access? How much time do they have access to you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's including what we're absorbing on the
Yeah.
socials, on
Yeah.
YouTube, on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X form, or what is it? What is it? X formerly known, yeah,
It's
Twitter,
Twitter
or
or
Twitter
Twitter.
formerly
Yeah,
known as
yeah,
X.
yeah. That's
I
the
can't keep up.
one.
But again, how much time are we and energy are we giving to these apps,
Mm-hmm.
to these screaming in the void,
Yeah.
when we could have actually gone out and had a walk or engaged with a loved one and just been a better person
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
screaming obscenities on a LinkedIn post, which I've
Yeah.
seen, by the way. People who know better
Wow.
sort of spouting
Screaming.
some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you do realize this is a public forum, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, are you actually being your best self or are you just being a jerk?
Yeah.
So
I love how
that's
you
what I recommend.
framed everything you said at the beginning by collecting data about yourself.
Yeah.
Whether or not it has to do with nutrition, whether or not it has to do
Mm,
with, how social media impacts you, whether or not it
yeah.
has to do with how people impact you. But I love
Mm,
the concept of collecting that data on yourself so you can make
yeah.
decisions that are right for you.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so we're coming down to the end.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would want to encourage others who are going through this process of,
Mm,
searching for their purpose or have been thinking about it, or there's something in the back of their head that is niggling at them, but they haven't fully tapped into, maybe I need to spend some time, discovering my purpose. Is there something that you would want to say to encourage
yeah.
them?
I definitely think that being honest that it's going to take time, and believe me, I
Mm.
hate the word patience. I'm
Mhm.
not a patient person. Surprise, surprise, right? I want it now. So that's one of the things I've had to learn how to work with. It's still not
Yes.
eradicated. I don't think it ever will.
Yeah.
But things take time. But I think things
Mhm.
will get faster
Yeah.
if you become clearer in what you
Yes.
want and what you don't want. If that's still difficult, it's what you like and what you don't like, and then really
Mhm.
identifying why you like these things. So I think that's a really good stepping stone. I think now with everything going on, I would also recommend staying away from the socials or limiting your amount of time and
Mhm.
energy
Yeah.
with the socials, even news, etc. Because keep in mind, the news is not meant to update you. It's meant to shock you. It's
Yeah.
meant to trigger you into reacting. So
Yeah.
if you spend all day, every day reacting and posting and doing all stuff instead of doing things that light you up, you're not really going to get very
Yeah.
far.
Exactly.
So I really think that's a good place to start. I
Mhm.
really feel this is going to sound funny. I used to be able to read a book a day when I was younger, a book a day,
Oh.
and not small books
Mhm.
like we're talking big books a day. And
Right.
I was a voracious reader, and I've noticed that with my time on the socials and stuff, or even just emails, working on computers, my attention span has just gone out the
Yeah.
window. So I've
Yes.
now started reading again. I know that sounds
Right.
really silly, but
Yes. Oh,
it's
it's a
like
physical
actual
book.
reading
Yes.
physical books, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that
Yes.
that it is incredibly therapeutic and helpful because, you're not getting millions of alerts every 5 minutes.
Yes.
You're cultivating that time and if you're thinking instead of listening, that triggers another way that the
Yeah.
brain connects.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not a good reader, I'd even recommend, Audible, I'd even
Yeah.
recommend,
Yeah.
a good podcast or two, but keep in mind, how much stuff you're absorbing. I would also suggest that do not compare yourself to anyone else.
Mm.
I've spent a long time in my life comparing myself to others, and feeling great shame that I didn't achieve this and that. And it's just BS.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday, who you were last
Hmm.
week, who you were when you were 18. Am I dealing with things better than that person? Am I
Yes.
showing up better than that person? Am
Yeah.
I an actual loving partner? Or am I
Yes.
still that weirdo from when I was 18? Who is this person, and have they
Yes.
integrated the wins and the learnings? If not,
Yes.
then there's some work that needs to be done.
Love it. Your best
Mm,
comparison is the person that you were yesterday. It lets you know if you're
absolutely.
moving. So finally, you kind of alluded to it earlier, my unsung heroes, all those persons who played a
Mhm.
significant part in helping you
Yes.
through this process.
Hmm.
So you did shout out some names, but is there
Yeah.
anybody else that you want to shout out as an unsung
Yes,
hero?
I mean, I'd just like to say it's like that book. It takes a village. I think it is, and it is
Yes.
very true. It's not just one. So I'd like to obviously give a very warm shout out to the various sort of groups that I've been a part of. You know, the latest, the Alchemy Travel Group, the ladies in Austria. Thank you very much, everybody, for just your awesomeness and vulnerability. I'd like to give a shout out to obviously Career on Purpose as well, the lovely
Yes.
ladies in that. That was
Hmm.
an incredible group that I was involved with last year, so thank you very much. Again, I'd like to give a shout out to my coach, Dave Monk. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for the work we're doing right now. But again, friends and family, I'm
Hmm.
very blessed. I'm not going to name all names because they know who they are.
Yes.
And I'm a very private person now.
Yes.
So, anybody that's within my inner circle,
Yeah.
my loved ones, my ride or dies, thank you very
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
and, my parents and my aunt Cindy and my sister. So I
Yes.
would say thank you very much for that. Thank you for your love and support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely. Lovely.
And
I
thank you
wanted
to
to.
you for for following up on this because yes, it's been a trip, so we got there in the
Yeah,
end.
we did, and it's so interesting. There was just this through line of purpose all throughout because you talked about, having grappling with purpose from the time you were 8. You talked about that shame of not knowing what you wanted to
Mm,
do, for university,
mm,
which is, that sense of trying to figure out purpose. There's just
absolutely.
been that through lane all throughout the
Mm,
conversation of this idea of purpose and how it can sometimes make you feel like a failure. So, Christina,
absolutely.
thank you
No,
for
thank
having this
you.
very, honest and vulnerable conversation today. And like
Mm,
you said, I know there are many women and men who will
absolutely, they're meant
feel
to. Mm,
exactly, who will find everything that you said so connecting because they're also longing to unmask
mm,
or going through the process of
absolutely.
unmasking and just need to hear that person just saying, yes, I did it. It can be done. It takes time, it takes effort, but yes, you get
Mm,
to a point afterwards. So
yep.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great to speak with you, and I hope this interview helps many others to come forward and unmask their true selves.
For sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A huge thank you to Christina for sharing her story with such bravery and honesty. If you'd like to connect with her, you'll find her details in our show notes. If Best Feels resonates with you, the best way to support us is to share it. Send it to a friend, leave a review on your favorite podcast app, or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Best Feels Podcast. If you have a story of your own, we'd love to hear it. Email us at info@mybestfails.com and let's keep building this brave archive of our best fails. And if you're currently navigating a failure, personal, professional, or somewhere in between, and want a space to reflect and explore what it means for you, head over the show notes to book a discovery call with me. Failure is a community resource. Don't hoard yours. Share it. You never know who it may help or what it may heal. Until next time.